What's going on, guys? It's the Unhinged Engineer here. If this is your first video, just welcome. I make professional development content for young engineers like myself, trying to make their way, work awesome jobs, build cool stuff, make tons of money. You get the drill. If this is the kind of person you are, you're just interested in me going along this journey, this is the channel for you. And today, I want to talk about something that a lot of us have more likely than not encountered, and that's the dreaded last question of any interview, which is, do you have any questions for me? Right? And that's it's pretty nerve-wracking in the moment because the entire paradigm of the conversation shifts. It goes from the interviewer asking you all the questions and you answering everything in response to you have to ask them a question and they answer it, right? And so, God forbid we have to come up with something on the spot, it can kind of come out in ways that some of which aren't really wrong, they're just kind of not the best way to respond. They don't leave a good lasting impression. So obviously we have that recency bias, and the last impression we have of the person we just interviewed is the moment we roll with. So we really want to make sure we crush that moment. So there's some that don't really accomplish that, and there's others that I feel like are actually bad questions to ask the interviewer that kind of leave a bad taste in their mouth despite how the rest of the interview might have gone. So to give a couple examples, right? Asking more details about the team or the position or even the interviewer themselves, try to learn more about them and connect in that way. Those aren't bad answers, but again, I don't think you're really crushing that moment and leaving a lasting last impression for them. And then there's other questions I think you're just kind of shooting yourself in the leg if you ask, how much PTO do I get, or what's the salary, what's the deal, how much am I going to make? Like, these are questions that kind of, even if the whole interview round went really well, don't leave that impression we want to leave the interviewer with when they ultimately go into the decision of whether or not to continue with us. So today, I want to talk about the hands down number one best question that you can end your interview with, so that when that interviewer walks away, he's like, man, I really want to hire this guy. Let's move him on to the next round, or hopefully write him a blank check. So today we're going to talk about what that question is. Okay, so to reframe this conversation before we get specifically into the question, I want to talk about how an interview, regardless of whether or not it's for an engineering position or something else technical, it's a sales call, right? We are trying to sell ourselves to the interviewer, right? They have this need they're trying to fill, and we are trying to sell ourselves, our skills, our experiences, our personality, whatever else, to that interviewer and make the claim that we are what they need to meet that need, right? And so this is ultimately a sales call, right? And to illustrate that point, I want to briefly talk about the Wolf of Wall Street. So if you don't know, The Wolf of Wall Street is a very NSFW movie where Leonardo DiCaprio plays this very slimy salesperson. And there's a famous scene in the movie where he goes up to one of his buddies and he hands him a pen and he says, "Sell me this pen." And the guy picks it up and he's like, And he asks him to write his name down. And Leonardo DiCaprio says, I don't have a pen. He goes, there you go, boom, and he hands him the pen. That's the sale. So the point of that little brief moment is it's just a test to see if someone has sales intuition, right? Because the wrong answer in that moment is, I hand you this pen, you say, sell it to me, and you go, oh, it's really nice, it writes upside down in the space station, and you can refill the ink and all this other stuff. That's what people's mind naturally goes to, especially as engineers. We're very logical, detail-oriented people. Our mind goes to, let me tell them all the ways that this pen is fantastic. But the only right answer is to get right at the need that person's trying to fill. Why do you need this pen? How long have you been looking for a pen? Why does the pen you have not work? And so, getting at that need, according to the slimy salesperson that Leonardo DiCaprio plays, is ultimately the way you really sell to people. That's the intuition you need going into these conversations. And so that leads me to this question that I've been baiting y'all with the entire video. What is it? Why are you hiring? That's the question. Why are you hiring? Right? You're getting at, what need are you looking to fill by hiring someone for the position we're discussing today? And so if you're lucky, they're going to come and they're going to start ranting about, oh, we don't have enough resources, or we don't have enough people, or we have these capabilities, but it's really slow, and a couple people just quit, or whatever else. They're going to get into this whole thing about why they're specifically hiring for this position. And then what you get to do, I'll write it in red for dramatic effect, is you get to add in me, right? Now it's, why are you hiring me? So you sit there and you ask them, why are you hiring? And they're going to give you a bunch of stuff, right? A bunch of details, some ugly, others obvious. And what they've just done is fed you an answer key as to why they're trying to hire, right? They've given you the answer. They've given you the thing that they're trying to accomplish by talking to you that day. And then it's very easy to just sit there and say, oh, you're trying to do that? I'm the right person for the job. Here's why, right? So instead of kind of rambling about more and more of your accomplishments and experiences and things like that, which you've more likely than not been doing the entire interview, you end off with this question. You're reminding them, hey, you're the one with the need here. I'm the salesperson. I'm the one trying to give you something. Tell me why you're interested in what I have to offer, right? So at that point, they start selling you for you. And then you just like follow it up. Really, really easy. Why are you hiring me? Then I fill in with why I'm a good fit for this position. And so, I've used this question before. I think it's my go-to every time because it really just reframes that conversation as to saying like, oh, this is why I'm here today. They're reminding themselves, they're reminding you, and then it's really easy for you to waltz right in there and say, okay, this is why I'm the right person for this position. And I want to provide like an example here, right? Just like general example. Let's pretend you're applying for a position in modeling and simulation. This is say simulation job at a big company, right? Whether it's an aerospace engineering company, mechanical engineering, whatever, right? And modeling simulation. And that's a pretty wide definition of the role. There's lots of different things. What are we simulating? How are we simulating it? Are you writing the code or doing the math? Like simulation's a huge, varied field, right? So hopefully you meet the qualifications and you go in there and they ask you about your experience and whatnot. And then at the end of the interview, they say, okay, do you have any questions for me? You respond with, tell me about why you're hiring for somebody now. Because clearly if you're this big established company and you've built real stuff and put it out in the real world before, you probably have modeled and or simulated something at some point. Right? So clearly this is something you know how to do. And yet you're still hiring someone to fulfill this kind of role. Tell me why. And there's several different reasons that they could tell you. They might say, oh, we have a bunch of simulations, but they're too slow. Or they're old and they're written in like Fortran, which we don't know how to use anymore. They might say, oh, we found that, we're really interested in working on this type of vehicle, right? So different from the vehicle that they've been simulating. Like maybe they're really good at modeling quad rotor drones and now they're getting to fixed wing aircraft and they need more people to help model that. Or they say, we've never accounted for, we've never simulated heat transfer before, right? We've only done structural engineering, but we've never accounted for how hot things get. And we found that causes problems in our testing, and we want to be able to simulate that on top of the capabilities we already have, right? And for each of these, ideally, you can then say, oh, I'm perfect for that. Your simulations are too slow. I'm a rock star HPC guy with like C++ experience, and I worked on this project before this, and that taught me a lot, and blah, 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 blah. All this stuff about speeding up simulations. Or if they say, we're looking to model heat transfer, say, oh, that's really interesting. I've actually never modeled heat transfer before myself, but I know that it's a set of PDEs and I've used these kind of numerical methods before and that worked really well. I think for doing something like heat transfer, it might be different in these ways, right? So even if you don't have exactly what they need to fill the need they're discussing with you, you can still like frame it in a really positive light of saying like, hey, even if I don't have this, I'm equipped to learn and grow with you as you seek to fulfill this need, and here's why. Right? So effectively, again, the point of this question, I always erase things too early to this channel. Why are you hiring? Is like the best question, because at the end of the interview, after they talk to you about all the details and all the things in your resume and all the experiences, right? Half of which they're going to forget anyway. You ask them effectively, hey, remind yourself why we had this conversation today and why you're interested in me. Then you just tee it up. That's why it's the great question, because then you have this answer that you can play to exactly, and you really leave this strong, positive impression. It's worked for me. It's helped me get jobs. I'm confident it will help you too. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a simple one, short and sweet, but I really do think that this question is like the best answer, hands down, when an interviewer asks you to ask them something. It just leaves a really strong impression, and I'm really confident that it will hopefully help you on your job hunt journey. So yeah, like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I'm an aerospace engineer by trade, and I work in software, AI, autonomy, stuff like that. If professional development content for young STEM people like myself is interesting to you, I would highly, highly recommend you subscribe to this channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.